the heads of state from the SADC region will be meeting for an extraordinary summit in Zimbabwe next week to discuss the elections in Mozambique. Now, the opposition has rejected the election results and called for nationwide protests. Now, reports about the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, Dr. MIchael Masiapato, receiving reports of vehicles being torched on the Mozambican side of the Lebombo Border port of entry due to these security incidents. In the interest of public safety, the port has been temporarily closed. That's up until further notice. Dr. Masiapato joins us now. Very good evening to you, Dr. Masiapato. Thank you for your time. What is the latest? I mean, we're hearing of tensions and violence. What's happening there?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Paul. We really appreciate the opportunity as the Border Management Authority. Yes, indeed, Paul, since the announcement of the elections in Mozambique, there has been this sporadic protest. Initially, there had been more taking place in the capital city, Maputo, and of course, it wasn't necessarily an issue for us in as far as the border management work is concerned. But in the past, few days, we have seen the activity starting to move towards the equivalent of the N4 on our side to their side. And of course, that ultimately reached a town called Resen Garcia, which is also the name of the port on their side, on the Mozambican side. So this afternoon, just in the past few hours, we then received serious reports that the protesters are now moving into the actual port on the Mozambican side, and they started to torch the official vehicles of the officers on the Mozambican side, to the extent that around 7 officials had to effectively, run to our side for safety as well as for protection. So as we speak now, those 7 officials are with our colleagues on the South African side in Lebombo Port of Entry, and we are literally granting them refuge and also to ensure that they are actually protected. So the biggest concern, as we speak now, is that the Immigration Processing Office on the Mozambican side has just been banned, together with the what you call your customs processing office. It is also banned. So on that basis, it became very clear that we cannot continue to do border management work and allow people to cross from our side into the Mozambican side. It is on that basis that we have decided to temporarily close the port overnight and be able to reassess the situation tomorrow morning.
How are law enforcement officials monitoring this entire process to ensure that you do indeed get to have business as usual tomorrow?
Yeah, on the South African side, what we did is we engaged with our colleagues, the South African Police Service, together with our colleagues from the South African National Defence Force, and we are effectively monitoring the situation on the ground. But more importantly, we are also ensuring that we protect our infrastructure and ensure that the protest itself does not spill to the South African side and end up, damaging our infrastructure. So on that basis, I can confirm that all the officials are on the ground in order to make sure that everything is fairly protected. What we also did during the course of the week, we have also been talking to the freight forwarders, because we saw the signs as the protest was starting to move towards the port on the Mozambican side that we needed to reduce the movement of, mineral trucks that are meant to go to Maputo port, as it were. And we started advising them that they can start going to Richards Bay, for instance, or some of them can start going to Durban. So on that basis, we have started to reduce the traffic that has been going through. In terms of the small vehicles, we also started advising people that it is very much problematic. But what actually happened in the past 3 hours made us to take the decision to get the port temporarily closed. We will be assessing the situation together with our Mozambican counterparts tomorrow morning, and we will be able to advise as to the way forward.
Dr. Masiapato, I wouldn't imagine that your announcement of some of these contingency measures has had an impact on the queues at the border post as you and I speak. What sort of ripple effect has occurred since the closure?
No, remember what we have done, as I've indicated, in terms of the trucks. Remember the biggest I would say a queue that we experience is fairly the trucks that are carrying minerals into the Maputo port. So over the weekend, obviously into yesterday, we have started diverting some of those. In other words, encouraging the freight forwarders to move to the other ports. So on that basis, the traffic has fairly been manageable. But at the point of closing the port, we had to advise the truckers to move into a staging area that we call kilometer 7 and be able to put the trucks there in the meantime whilst we are assessing the situation. So fairly, they had to turn around and drive back into kilometer 7, which is a staging place that we use in any event to manage the trucks and be able to get them to the port gradually, as it were. In terms of the small vehicles, we also guided the people to not come through into the port, and they have been at around the town of Komati Port, and we had indicated that we will be able to reassess the situation tomorrow morning. So as we speak, on the basis of safety reasons, we had made sure that the port is cleared from any of the travelers. We are just ensuring that the security of infrastructure is intact.
Okay. So very quickly, are you confident and quite sure that your staff and personnel are safe, no injuries being reported, and that infrastructure has not been damaged?
Yes, indeed. From the South African side at Lebombo, there is no any infrastructure that has been damaged. There is no any official that has actually been injured or anything of that sort, and that is why we had to mobilize the law enforcers to make sure that the environment is fully secured so that infrastructure does not get damaged. So we take safety very seriously as the Border Management Authority, obviously working together with the rest of the other law enforcement authorities, and on that basis we don't have any challenges.